it's not meant to be this documentary version of what actually happens. It was meant to be a family survival film with layers of moments and takeaways, and I think there's a lot of takeaways in this film.
Peter, how are you, sir?
I'm good, man. I love that poster in the back. What is that poster?
So that is a gun that is shooting hearts and butterflies.
I love that.
Yeah, my girl did the decor. She knows I have no eye for that stuff. So first of all, congratulations on Fire, man. This movie had me on the edge of my seat, I wanted to make sure that family got safe too.
Thank you.
No, and the film is fantastic. Fantastic performances. I mean, it looks great. You co-directed this film with Nick Lyon, who also wrote the film. He said this idea was sparked when he was camping with his son. What connected you with the script when you first read it?
Well, when I read it, I think there was so many global fires that already had been in the news, and I thought, well, this is interesting because it's one of those throwbacks to those survival family films, right? But those family survival films usually have like so many characters in it, and there's like so many other distractions, and this one just kind of is like a fly on the wall with this one family. And I thought that's a really interesting take on this, to see the experience of, because that family is kind of symbolic of any family of all of us, right? So it's like when you connect with that family and you say, oh, they're just a family that has problems like all of us. They're trying to pay their bills. They're having a new baby, and their dad's sick, and they have all these small issues that are mountainous to them, but then when they all of a sudden get their life threatened, and they go through this harrowing experience, all of those big, huge issues feel very small. They feel like anthills compared to like surviving the night, right? So I got excited by that, and I think I looked at this film and I thought, there's this throwback to this family survival film that's kind of feels commercial, but it has a lot of layers, a lot of messages, like that film, like, hey, don't sweat the small stuff and focus on the bigger stuff. And then how this family kind of grows through the experience, and together they get to do it. Because in a lot of these films, it's like the dad is the action hero, and he's like, oh, I'm going to get my family through the night. And in this film, it's like the dad doesn't have all the answers. He's just trying to figure it out, like his wife is, and how his kid is, and they're trying to figure it out together. And each one of them through the film have their own heroic moments, and I really liked that. And then I like the message at the end. I mean, we kind of leave it off with a little bit of hope, and celebrating firefighters and 911 operators for their heroism and contribution to like helping people through these catastrophic events. And then hopefully leaving it with a moment of pause where we could say, hey, what can we do to fix this? Because it's going to happen again. It's just happened, in Maui, and it's happened, I think, in 2 other states, even since Maui. So, there's got to be something we can do to help prevent and also the message. One of the message I liked in it too is how fast it happens. Everyone always thinks, oh, not me. Won't happen to me, not my house. It's off in the distance, but then you blink your eye and it's at your doorstep. And then what do you do? So to make sure you take things seriously and always be prepared, because a fire moves that fast.
Yeah, I mean, there's one scene in the film that is really, I mean, it's a frightening scene where your character Dave goes out and he sees like the sparks of the fire coming up, and they land on the trees. And then he knows that, like, hey, we got to get out of here. We got to move out. I mean, it is terrifying. That's exactly what I love this movie, though, for exactly what you said. The family feels so relatable in every aspect of it. And everybody does get their chance to step up. It's incredible. Now, Nick says that you went above and beyond understanding and realizing the vision he had for the project. Can you talk about working with Nick as a collaborator on this film?
Yeah, he was wonderful. He came... he had written this wonderful script that got these great actors attached, and we all got there, and he had this beautiful vision that we both saw, and he was so collaborative. It made me feel like such a part of the process, and working on scenes together, and like even taking scenes that were written and then kind of working together to make them even better, and how can we make this even more grounded, and how can we and then unfortunately he got COVID, and it was like the captain of your ship is down. What do? You can't head back to port, and we're in an independent film, and like we couldn't shut down. and I've directed before, but Nick really believed that, hey, I know you could do this. I'm going to pass the torch on to you, and you know, finish up strong, and let's make a great movie. And I did, and I stepped in because I had been working collaboratively with him, because I had been understanding his vision, and because, you know, we worked so well together. I was able to like just transfer that onto, you know, taking over, and the actors trusted me at that point, and the DP trusted me, and I ended up finishing up collecting, and then the editing room, it became another beautiful collaboration, and so it was really generous of him, because, you know, for me, I never intended on directing or taking a directing credit, but he saw the amount of work and passion that I put in, and at the end of the day, we thought, you know what, it doesn't really feel like my film. His film feels like our film. Let's take a co-director credit in the spirit of that collaboration of that we worked on, and so yeah, it was the final product we're very happy with. You know,
It looks great. That's something you had mentioned. This is an independent movie that looks like a big budget fire sequence. So can you talk to me? I mean, it's incredible. It is incredible. And Nick comes from the disaster world background filmmaking. His usage of light, fog machines, and real fire. Can you talk about some of the lessons you may have learned from him working on that?
When we started this movie, I was like, okay, well, he was using all lighting, and smoke. There was, because we're in a real forest, we weren't allowed to light a fire. We couldn't light fire at all, which rightfully so. We don't. The last thing we want to do is start a fire on a set of a fire movie. You know? And so we were in this beautiful forest, and we thought, okay. I was thinking, well, how is this as an actor? You know, I hope this works. You know, and it did. He really understood those techniques, and the DP understood those techniques, and then being able to fill that in with the CGI and stock footage. I mean, I was there in post 9 months. We worked together to, you know, create the fire effects in post, and a lot of times in movies, those fire effects could look really cartoony. I can't tell the difference between stock footage and the fire effects that we create. That's how good the CGI, guy did. And so, well, I'm happy with it. And for us too, is like the fire, you know, it could have been, the fire is the antagonist of the film, you know. It could have been a shark like Jaws, you know, and it could have been a tsunami. It could have been a hurricane. But the real thing is this outside presence was this threat on this family. I remember talking to the composer and going, you know, at first we had this action score that was throughout, and it just wasn't working. And I said to the composer, look, let's treat it like the fire is an alien, you know, like this alien invasion is coming, you know, and you don't have to have everything be action oriented. It could be very slow and creepy and suspenseful. And let's give this fire like a feeling of a character, you know, that's coming in and taking over. And it worked. Like if you watch the movie again, that score really gives the gears of the film. It tells you when when stuff's coming, when you could slow down, when it could be suspenseful. And then, you know, when we save that, and I said, you know, we should just minimal action, and then the last 10-15 minutes go full blast. You know, so then you have somewhere to go, you know what I mean? But if it starts in the beginning that way and you're just all the way through, then it becomes like an overload, you know, or showing when to show the fire and when not to show the fire. Because if you show the fire too much, then it becomes less of a threat. And if you know it's there and you show it when you need it, then it becomes more powerful. So just in the edit, it was, you know, working with Nick to make sure that we had this balance, and also to make sure that we didn't lose the family. Because the core of this movie is, if you don't root for this family, then nobody cares, you know. Yeah. And so to make sure that we were focused on the journey that this family was having.
I want to talk about the family for a second, because Fiona and Asher Angel and Lance Hendrickson, they do such an amazing job of portraying the family in this, along with you. Can you talk to me about what they brought to their roles that wasn't necessarily on the page?
I mean, they all brought wonderful things to the role. I mean, Asher's he's a movie star, you know, he just pops off the screen. And like, I remember when we were shooting his stuff where he has these heroic moments too towards the end of the film, and you're like, okay, he's going to be an action star, this kid. And Fiona's just a really smart actress, very talented, always so grounded. I always enjoyed doing these intimate scenes with her, where we were like, there's a scene where I'm talking to her in a trailer, and we're just trying to figure out our next move, and she was just so raw, full of emotion. And the better, it just makes me better because she's so good. And then Lance, I remember, he came in, and I was like, oh man, Lance is kind of losing. He's like, because he was kind of in character a little bit as the grandfather, and the grandfather kind of goes off on tangents. Sure. And he kind of has that where he carries that onto the set. So when I met him, like, he'd be talking about one thing and talking about another thing. And I'm like, oh, poor Lance. And then I met him after the movie, and the guy's sharp as a tack. And I was like, oh man, he was just playing that character to the T. Because when you come in for he came in for 5 days. Sometimes it's, to switch in and out of me and my character. But if you kind of just leave that residue while you're off camera, not saying that you're method, but if you leave a little bit of the energy of that character, then it's easier for the other characters to kind of see you that way, and so he's just a really smart actor, because now I know what he was doing, and I thought, oh, he's so good. And in the film, he brings some comedy to it, and also there's a symbolism there. There's a moment, and I don't know if anybody will ever get it, but we cut in this moment where his character gets into this car wreck, and he's in the middle of talking about climate change, and he's fighting with his grandson, Asher Angel. And so you have this new regime that believes in climate change, and the old regime that doesn't, and in the middle of this speech of climate change, he ends up getting into this car accident. And it was kind of symbolic to me. The way we cut it was the old regime is dying out, because the new regime has, is what we're kind of left with and having to believe, you know what I mean? So because that speech went on and on for a bit, and we were like, no, let's cut it in the middle of it. So it's like the old rhetoric is dying, Sure. And the new rhetoric is what we're left with having to face and be forced with. But those are little things that I think symbolically maybe an audience will get. But when you're in that editing room, it's fun to go, okay, look, let's make this about something, But at the end of the day, like I said, it's not meant to be this documentary version of what actually happens. It was meant to be a family survival film with layers of moments and takeaways, and I think there's a lot of takeaways in this film.
I agree. And like you said, I love the fact that this film is dedicated to the survivors, the rebuilders, and the first responders. I think it's a brilliant film, Peter. And I love talking to filmmakers about that stuff, because those little key moments that you were just talking about Lance and stuff, that is the stuff I live for. I love that little tidbits of knowledge in the filmmaking process. Thank you for your time, Peter, man. The film's amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, man. Have a great day, Peter.